everybody, welcome back to the tea table. Today we're gonna go over an Arceus deck. Not like we haven't seen a million of those, but today a new partner has risen. That is going to be Togekiss from Obsidian Flames. It was one of the pre-release cards. Kind of a cool card. In theory, hasn't seen a lot of play yet, but it's a very interesting ability. This list is mostly from Japan, but there were some cards we didn't have, such as Mew EX from Pokemon 151, which comes out in a few weeks here in the rest of the world, basically. And I want to make it kind of ready for, like, let's say if I were going to take it to Pittsburgh. So, we are going to jump right into the deck list here. Start with the Pokemon we know. Go to the Togekiss and look at the trainers. So, obviously, you got your Arceus V. You got that Trinity Charge ability. Search for 3 basic energy attachment to one of your V. Your only other V will be more Arceus, so it's kind of like an Arceus attacker deck to do that kind of thing. And then you got the 4 Arceus VSTAR. The reason there's 4 is because that's your attacker. You don't really have anything else to go upon. That's a V, so you definitely want the 4 to get the odds to get them. It does the Trinity Nova 200 and search for 3 basic energy. Tells them to your Pokemon V. Shuffle your deck. Then you got the Starbirth. Once a game V-Star power. Just search for 2 cards. So obviously, we've seen Arceus be around long enough to know you get to search for any 2 cards. So if you, it'll just make you attack turn 2, or get your Togekiss out, or like get a Bossazor to pick off their 1 Charmander they have in play, or 1 Pidgey, stuff like that, etc., etc. Very good card, obviously, and this art from Crown Zenith does look amazing. Then you got the Radiant Greninja. You will see we have 4 Paths to the Peak, but Greninja just doesn't serve a purpose for its ability, and we'll get to that later. So you have concealed cards, discard an energy, draw 2 cards. Remember, Path to the Peak, can't use it, and only 1 Radiant Pokemon in your deck, by the way. And then Moonlight Shuriken, which is a tool we can use later. Discard 2 energy, 90 to your opponent's Pokemon. So then let us move to the new edition. See, we got Togepi from Astral Radiance. There's another Togepi, which can, I believe, remove a card from your opponent's hand. But I went with this one because you never know when healing 10 is going to matter. So when you place a Pokemon from your hand on your bench, heal 10 from active. That's kind of cool, whatever. But when do we want to evolve it into Togekiss from Obsidian Flames? Its ability says, once at the end of your turn, after you attack, which is a cool ability, kind of like Radiant Venusaur, you may use this ability, draw cards, and so you have 8 cards in your hand. So if you do a Judge Down, or your opponent kind of Roxanne's you or something, and then you have your turn but you still attack, you can definitely draw back and say you have 8. And the good thing is you don't have to use the ability. So if you're in one of those long games, 30-minute plus games, and you got 4 cards left in your deck, you do not have to draw to 8, so you will not just randomly deck yourself by having the card in play, which makes it a lot better in my opinion. And then you got Power Cyclone, which actually can combo with Arceus, as we do play Sharon's Care, which we'll get to. 110 for 2, and move an energy from this Pokemon to one of your bench Pokemon. So you could, Sharon's Care, drop it again, tag with Togekiss, move that energy, possibly get a knockout, and then they got to deal with your 1 Prizer, and your Arceus is about to be powered up. And another cool thing about it, it has free retreat costs. So if you get escape ropes, you know your opponent can knock something out, they're trying to stall, or if your Pokemon gets knocked out, you can just bring up Togekiss and not have to worry about that. So those are the Pokemon. Let us hit the trainers. Live kind of put them in a random order, so we're just going to go through them as I see them, instead of how I like to do it, which is go supporters, items, etc., etc. So we got 1 switch, obviously switch your active, pretty simple there. You got that Box of Disaster tool card here. If the Pokemon V's card is attached to its full HP and it's knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, put 8 damage counters on that Pokemon. So if a Giratina V-Star can get you, or a Mew VMAX, get your fully powered Arceus there. Or even a Charizard, because you don't have to be knocked out by V, it's just if they have full HP and are knocked out. Now, don't forget it is by damage, so if Giratina V-Star uses the V-Star ability, you will not put damage counters on them as you did not take damage. But I think it's a really cool one-of that can kind of deter your opponent if they don't have a Vacuum or Tool Jammer or something in their deck to get rid of it, or a Bossazor to go around it. Just the one-of copy can be really, really annoying. Then you got 4 Paths to the Peak. So obviously you got Radiant Greninja in your deck. With Paths to the Peak will shut down. But Paths to the Peak is very good, obviously, at this point. If you look in the background top left there's a Snom. If you never noticed that before, it's pretty adorable. Pokemon with a rule box. Both yours and your opponents have no ability. So what you're going to want to do turn 2, you basically want to judge path your opponent in some capacity. So if you just have, or Iono really, something to disrupt their hand. Preferably Judge, because it gives them less cards. But you use Arceus, I'm going to get my double turbo, or I'm going to get my rare candy for my Togekiss, whatever. And then your other card is just Path, then you disrupt them. and then you're attacking, and your opponent has to draw a way to get out of it, especially if they're using like a Charizard deck or something that heavily relies on abilities at the beginning of the game to get going. Very good disruption. That's what we do have 4. We got the 2 rare candy. Since only 2/0/2 line Togekiss, but you only have 2 rare candy. You basically get out 1. If you get a second one, it's kind of like, whoa, I got 2. That'd be just cool to kind of have a liability because they go after 1 because they notice like you play best of 3. You're like, that's crazy. They went after Togekiss. Well, I got another one. So pretty simple there. Just let you skip 4 Togekiss only. You got the Super Rod. Shove up to 3 in any combination of Pokemon and basic energy cards from a discard pile in your deck. Obviously, we got cards like Ultra Ball, or if you get knocked out. So let's say they knock out your Greninja and you need to get it back for something, or like even 2 Togepi, 1 Togekiss, and you had to discard the Togekiss early game to get your Arceus, and then you can Super Rod there. We got 3 Iono. Each player shuffles their hand and puts on the bottom. Draw a card equal to how many prizes they have. So obviously with Pat to Peak, the later the game goes, the more successful your opponent is. Your Iono gets better, obviously, so less prizes draw less. That does work for you too, but luckily not too bad because you do have the Togekiss that will let you draw until you have 8 cards at the end of that turn. Then we have what has become one of my favorite cards from Obsidian Flames, actually. I thought it was going to be Gita, but it's actually Poppy. Move up to 2 energy from one of your Pokemon to another of your Pokemon. So that is how you can attack with Greninja. You could Arceus and put 3 waters on an Arceus. And then you can Poppy onto the Greninja, attach the Greninja, and hit him for 290 attacks. Now, it's kind of one of those things like that has popped up before in Arceus decks since Obsidian Flames has come out. So your opponent might see you play Water Energy in Arceus deck and get the Manaphy kind of thing. Or some players just kind of see a Greninja and automatically get Manaphy. But that is what it is if they do go for the route. So it's kind of like takes up a bench space of an attack you don't have to use. But it's also very good if you like, well, I have an Arceus on the bench. I need to get a knockout, but I don't want to sacrifice that Arceus. You can move like your double turbo to your Togekiss, get a knockout, and move it to the new Arceus. It kind of loops around. That way you can still attack and get a knockout, and your opponent has to try a little harder to get the 2-price Pokemon out of the way. But it's a very cool card, I think. I have some decks. I have 2 Poppies, like my Leafeon Arceus Pidgeot deck. Card's very cool. One of my favorite cards from the set. I'm interested to see forward if people just kind of put them in their decks for future releases, or even current decks. So like, you know what? That's a good idea. Then we move on to your Ultra Ball. Obviously, 4 discard 2 cards, get a Pokemon. You gotta get your Evolution somehow. RIP Evolution Incense, so you gotta get that there. Then we got 3 judges. Like I said, each player shuffles and draws 4, but you do Judge Path, Kiss, and your opponent has 4 cards in the hand. You're attacking. We got the 2 Sharon's Care. Put one of your colorless Pokemon that has any damage counters on it, and all cards attached to your hand. So that's how you could do they attack so I attack them for 180 to 200. They attack you, they can't knock you out. You pick it up. You attach that double turbo or whatever, if it already has an energy, to your Togekiss. You get the knockout with your Impulsor, and you move the energy to your Arceus. So if they do not get Togekiss, your Arceus is already ready to go. And then if they choose to go up to the Arceus, your Togekiss is still living and can do the same thing next turn onto a different one, perhaps. And don't forget, you can move the energy from Togekiss to Greninja. Kind of let your opponent know what's happening. Although it is awkward because it could get the Manaphy, but still a good thing you can do. Seeing as we play Water Energy, we do play 2 Melony. Obviously, you can only attach to your Arceus, but that's okay, because it kind of lets you not necessarily be so far behind if you miss the turn 1 energy. There are 14, but you could still miss them. You could turn 2 if you have to Arceus, like if you've Ultra Balled, and you just get Melony double turbo or whatever, and then you got the 3 energy and you're on your way. Or if you had one combination of like, Ultra Ball, and you already had Arceus, or you already had, you drew double for a turn. It lets you get other cards too, because that way you don't have to use your VSTAR ability to get the energy specifically. But obviously it lets you recover too. Also draws cards, which is very nice. You got the 1 Lost Vacuum. Lost Vacuum is just for kind of like Bravery Charm your opponent might have, or the Tool Jammer if you got your tools going on, or even if you want to Pat to the Peak but you want to use Greninja, you can Vacuum, Pat to the Peak, or even for your Arceus, and then drop another Pat to the Peak. So you got to use it, and then you play another Pat to the Peak, so your opponent's kind of like plan was like, alright, whatever, and then you don't really need to use your ability the rest of the game. We got the 1 Choice Belt because these are still things. In the format, the 210 just kind of helps you get 2 hit knockouts with Togekiss a little easier depending on what the Pokemon is, like Mew. Also, I think 210 is just one of those cards we're playing. It lets your Arceus VSTAR with 3 waters attack for 230, which can knock out your basic Arceus, Palkia, Giratina, stuff like that. I almost did Defiant Spell, the one if you're losing it does 30 more, just for like Cheen Pow and stuff, because they do have a little trouble knocking that out, but that might be something to consider later. You got the one escape rope, each player switches their active. Sometimes you're stuck with your Arceus because they tried to stall, or your Greninja, but you need the other one. Boom, escape rope, play the new one, attack, profit. We got 2 bosses ordered. There was 3 in the original list, but I did go with 2. Bring up one of your opponent's Pokemon, get that knockout to win that game, and we will finish out the trainers with the 4. Nestball, obviously, got to get those basics. Finally, we move on to the energy. You got the 8 water energy, obviously. Boom. You probably could go to 7. Realistically, if you want to make a couple changes in the list, that would be like the drop and make. You got the 4 double turbos, obviously powers up your Togekiss and Arceus really fast. And you got 2 V-Guard energy, which does help against Giratina as they do 250, and they don't really play Choice Belt in that deck if it is not the one with Arceus, if it is the Lost Box version. Now, granted, so you don't really have to worry about them knocking you out there. And it can let you live a turn and then do the share and scare Togekiss thing like we talked about and take advantage of the game. So, that was Arceus Togekiss for everybody. Just kind of like a fun little thing. Maybe take it to a league. It feels like a league challenge, league cup deck for me personally. I have to get some more games. I only got like 3 or 4 with them before this video, to be fair. But it's a really fun card. And Togekiss really proved its worth. I almost decked myself once by just clicking yes when I had 2 cards in my deck. I was like, oh, just kidding. Gotta be careful now. But in real life, it's a lot easier because you can have PTGL glitch on you. So, with that being said, that's Arceus. That's the Togekiss. I'm Josh Shatter. This is the T-Table. And I'll see everybody next time.